So hi everyone, greetings to everybody. Kindly permit me some space to share with you a presentation I did on ISO 45001 establishment and implementation. So as you can see, my name is Godwin Tete and I work as a health, safety, environment and quality professional. And presently I work with Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Ghana Limited. So like I said, I'm doing a presentation on the ISO 45001 establishment and implementation. Like I said earlier, ISO 45001 is no different from all the ISO management systems. So it also follows the plan, do, check and act system of development. So we have the plan. Plan is where we identify our risks and hazard, where we set our objectives, where we do our contest, we set our contest, we identify the needs and expectation of workers and all of that. So after we've done that, do is where we implement the controls we put in place. So let's say if we look at identifying of hazard and risks, the controls we put in are going to be implemented at the doing stage. Check is where we check our KPI set at the planning stage to and we monitor and measure to see if there has been any non-compliance or shortfalls. And act is where the shortfalls identifies are controlled to make sure we have a continuously improved management system and the cycle go back and run same way. So this is just the system of the 45001 management system. Let's go to all the clauses. So you have clause 4, like I said, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I put leadership and worker in the middle because ISO 45001 is employee centered. They are worker centered, they are staff centered. ISO 45001 main objective is to make sure that staff are safe. I mean, staff come to work and go back safely as they came in, or even in an improved position whilst they leave the company. So ISO 45001, in their own wisdom, is centered around staff to make sure staff are safe. So all of what we do from all the clauses are geared towards making sure staff will be safe at the workplace at all times. The next stage is the whole annex SL of the ISO 45000 itself, and I name it the content. So you can see clause 1 to be scope, clause 2 normative reference, clause 3 to be terms and definition. Now all these three clauses are not like one are not part of the audited clauses. So emphasis is not placed much on them when we are developing the management system or when we are talking about the management system. However, the scope just give the applicability of the management system document itself. So the scope is how you go about setting up your system and all of that, and it's generic. The normative reference, this document doesn't have any normative reference. The only reference is the ISO 45001 standard itself. So there's no other normative reference with regards to setting up the ISO 45001 management system. If you go to terms and definition, they are generic. So if you check the standard, there are generic definition of terms that are defined in the standard. If you go online, you can get a lot of them for yourself. If you also define your management system and you have terms which you think you have to add to the definition, you are allowed to add terms and definition in your management system which you think readers of your standard have to or your management system have to understand. Then we start from clause 4. Clause 4 is the context of the organization. So this is where the if in case you want to go for the standard certification, if you want to be certified to the standard, the major clause or the audited clause start from the clause 4, which is the context of the organization. So I mean, as we go on, we'll be looking at all of these clauses. But for today, I'm doing only clause 4. Next time, I'll do clause 5. I'll do all the clauses before I call a close to this presentation. So, like I said, I go to clause 1, which is the scope. It talk about the scope of the management system document itself and how you can use the standard to apply to your organization. Next is the references. Like I said, the only reference for this document or for the standard is the standard itself. So there are no other reference to the implementation and establishment of this the management system standard. Like I said, in terms of the definition, the standard has a generic terms and has defined. So you can see organization is defined, interested party is defined, contractors is defined. A whole lot of them. If you get a standard, you see some of the terms which has been designed. Like I said, you are free to add any of them whilst you are establishing or coming out with your management system. So all of these are terms and definition the standard has defined. Now let's go to clause 4. Like I said, this is where the action begins. This is where, in case you want to get certified, this is where the audit starts. This is the clause that has to do with the auditing. So the first one is the context of the organization. So if you come to the context of the organization, you have sub-clauses. So you have sub-clause 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4. 4.1 talks about understanding the organization and its context. 4.2 talk about understanding the needs and expectation of workers and other interested parties. 4.3 talks about the scope of the management system, and 4.4 talk about the management system itself. So let's go to it one by one. So when for clause 4.1, understanding the organization and its context basically talk about understanding both internal and external issues that can have impact or that can affect the establishment and implementation of the OH&S management system. Don't also forget that these issues, both internal and external, can be both positive and both negative issues that can have impact or that can affect the establishment of the OH&S management system. So at this stage, you have to understand these issues. And at the tail end, I'll show you how you can go about to understand how both of the internal and external issues can affect the organization in terms of establishing its OH&S management system. So you have to look at the opportunity to identify factors that affect parties and the intended outcome of the OH&S management system. So in doing so, at the clause 4.1 level, in coming out with your internal and external context that can impact the establishment and implementation of your management system, you can look at a system like the PESTEL. You can use the PESTEL theory to do your assessment. So the PESTEL talks about political, economic, social, technology, and environment. So as an organization, we are looking at politically what can affect your organization in terms of implementation of the OH&S management system. We are looking at economically what can also have impact or affect the establishment and implementation of the OH&S management system. You are looking at socially, you are looking at technologically, and you are looking at environmentally, how all of these mixes can impact the implementation of the OH&S management system. So as an organization, you have to make sure you understand all of this in coming out with your internal context. I mean the internal issues that can also impact your OH&S management system. You can also use the SWOT analysis. All right, some of these internal context or internal issue that can affect our management system is the shift system. I mean how we work. Obviously, if we work in an environment where we have shift system, our management system have to be tuned in to cater for all of this stuff. You are looking at the policies, I mean internal policies in the organization. You are looking at corporate governance in the organization, corporate structure. You have to take all of this into consideration because all of this have the all of this can impact the establishment and implementation of your management system. You are looking at the culture of the people. All right. So if you go to certain environment, there are certain things they are not supposed to do. If you go to certain environment, there are certain things they have to do. So all of this can impact your OH&S management system. So as an organization, you have to make sure all of this context is clearly understood and they are catered for in the development or in the establishment of your OH&S management system. Right. So, like I said, this is the context of the organization. This is the pestle system of coming out with the external issues that can affect the implementation or the development of your OH&S management system. So you are looking at politically, how can in terms of political issues affect your organization in terms of implementing the ISO 45001 A typical example is the organization in which I work in. I work in Boston. Boss is mostly a public sector company. So anytime government change, management, the likelihood of management changing is very high. So when we are doing our management system, we have to consider all of this. We have to consider industry regulation. We have to consider government policies because government can just bring a policy that can affect whatever we do. So you have to make room for all of that. You have to look at economics. So you can use this form too. This is just a simple template for you to use to assess your external issues that can have impact on your organization. So you have it political, you have state your political issues, economic, in terms of inflation, in terms of exchange rates, and all of this can have impact on your organization. So if you are making your or if you are drafting your HSE management system, you have to take consideration all of these issues. You can look at technology, like once again in the oil and gas downstream sector, gone are the days we used to have manual loading procedures or we need to load trucks manually. Now the new trend is that almost all depots are automated. So every depot is going to it's now being automated. So when you are drafting your HSC management system, you have to consider this issue, legal, labor laws, and all of that. This is just a template to show you, but in the context of the organization, these are what you are expected to come out with. So the 4.2, like I said earlier, talks about understanding the needs and expectation of workers and other interested parties. So workers are interested party. Beyond workers, we have other interested parties. And other interested parties, can be workers, can be contractors, can be shareholders, we have both internal and external interested parties. So in coming out with your OH&S management system or in drafting your OH&S management system or in you establishing your OH&S management system, you need to consider the needs of workers and all of these other interested parties. So the needs of interested parties must be determined by the organization. So examples can include, let's say if we talk about external interested parties, example can include suppliers, contractors, owners, shareholders, and regulatory bodies. The needs of all of this has to be considered when you are drafting your OH&S management system. So the needs of, like I said earlier, the needs of staff and either managerial, non-managerial has to be also be considered when you are drafting your OH&S management system. Other interested party can be legal, regulatory, workers, custom, all of that can be our interested parties that when we are drafting our OH&S management system, we have to consider their needs and some of these needs can become legal requirements. All right. So once again, let me use the organization in which I work in. Let's say one of our stakeholders or one of our interested parties are NPA. So NPA regulates all oil and gas downstream activities in Ghana. So when they place legal requirement in the industry or in the sector in which we work in, we have to comply because it becomes legal requirement. Company can also subscribe to other requirements by their own self. So once you subscribe to them, you are supposed or you are required to abide by this required requirement. Like I said, EPA can be EPA is also our Environmental Protection Agency is also our other interested party. When they come out with their laws and all of that, we need to make sure we meet their needs and expectation. So that's what clause 4.2 talks about. Let's go to clause 4.3. And 4.3 talks about the scope of the OH&S management system. Right. So as an organization, you need to determine the scope of your OH&S management system. How do they mean by that? What it means is that let me use my organization as an example. I work at Boston. We have about 6 depots across Ghana. When we decide to, including the head office, when we decide to go for the ISO certification, we can tailor our management system to say certain part of our operation and leave certain part of our operation. Right. So the scope talk about basically determine the boundaries of the OHSC management system in the organization. So the organization can go for parts or full scale of the operations or their operational areas in the management system. So basically, like I said, clause 4.3 talks about clearly define your boundaries. I mean, the applicability of the management system, the OH&S management system you are developing. Now, when you are defining your boundaries or the applicabilities of the management system, you have to consider external and internal factors. All right. So, like we said in the beginning, once you identify internal and external factors that can impact your HSC management system, when you are determining your boundaries, you need to make consideration into those factors you identified in the clause 4.1, and to make sure you factor them in determining your boundaries and applicability of the management system. You have to consider the work activities to be performed. The work activities to be performed must be considered when you are determining your boundaries and applicability of your OH&S management system. The scope you take should address all possible hazard and potential risks. So you can't say, let's say you are going for the management system, but because of certain risks, you are taking certain part of your organization from the scope of your management system. No, to make sure the scope addresses all possible hazard and potential risks in your operation, and this should be a documented information. So once auditors come to audit you for the ISO 45001, you are expected to provide a documented information of your scope of the management system. Alright, so that is this. Let's go to clause 4.4. 4.4 talks about the management system itself. So it talks about establishing, implementing, and maintaining a continuously improved OH&S management system. It also talks about process needed and interaction. So clause 4.4 talks about basically how you're going to structure your management system itself. So let's say you have manual, you have forms, you have procedures, how you are going to structure all of this to make sure or to achieve a continuously improved OH&S management system is what the clause 4.4 talks about. So basically, like I said, I'm doing 4.4. I think we'll go through all the clause one by one. So I mean, I say bye for now and join me as I do the clause 5. Thank you.